Well, it's so good to be here with you all. I'm excited to host this Facebook and LinkedIn live event this early morning or afternoon, depending where you are tuning in. And many of you may know me. I'm Dr. Alicia Lau, clinical psychologist and founder of Family Bridges and Bridges Excel. And today I am joined by a couple of amazing leaders and in the field that are also super excited about this topic of generosity. I have Javier Angulo and Karen Vergara. And I'm just going to go ahead and ask you both to introduce yourselves. And then we'll get right diving in this topic of generosity and how we can bridge all of the Americas in this space of generosity. I'm excited about this topic. It's something I've been passionate about for a few years now, and it's just such an important theme, and I'm excited for you to join us as we engage in this conversation. So, Javier, can you introduce yourself, your ministry, and what you do?
Hi, how are you? My name is Javier. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for joining us, and please share this link with other friends that could be, interested in learning more about generosity. I am serving the Generosity Path, which is a global organization that is serving and promoting generosity movement in the whole world. I am specifically serving Latin America and the Caribbean, and I'm based in Costa Rica, a beautiful country as well, that love coffee, by the way. So here we are to learn as well, to see what questions you have, and to share a bit of our experiences as well in the generosity movement
Yeah,
all over the world. So thank you
and
for the
I
invitation, Alicia.
I have to agree. You do have some good coffee in Costa Rica. Can't wait to get back. Thank you for joining us in this conversation, Javier. You're calling from where today? Where are you? What part of the world are you in today?
I am in Costa Rica now.
Okay,
Yes,
you're in Costa Rica. All right. And then also joining us, Karen, is Karen
San Jose,
Vergara.
Costa Rica.
Karen, okay. Karen, can you also introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here with you, Alicia and Javier. I am Karen Vergara. I am originally from Colombia, South America. And Javier, we would have to fight for best coffee. I think we may win. But yeah, so I'm from Colombia. I moved to the United States when I was 11 years old, and I'm really excited to just share how generosity really has been the thread, even amongst us three, that has brought us together, and our passion for seeing the Hispanic population, but really anyone across the Americas, knowing that we have this beautiful desire to see generosity and the message of generosity be shared all across.
Thank you both for joining us. And let's get started a little bit about why generosity. I mean, why are we talking about generosity? And even as we think about it, let's backtrack a little bit about our own history and what's that experience? How was generosity first modeled for us? And then two, why is this important? And why are we having this conversation? And as a group, we've been meeting once a month for several months now. Every time we talk, we get more excited about it. And we wanted to bring this conversation that we have to our greater network, to more of our friends, to also join us in this conversation. So those are two questions that I'd love for Javier and Karen to tackle. And it's like, why generosity? Why are we doing this? And then two, in the heels of that, what was that person or that first experience that we had that uh, sparked that passion of generosity in your own lives? So Karen, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, I think the message of generosity is so countercultural to what we see in society today, right? The idea of getting more is just so prevalent in our society that if we think about what does it look like to not just get but actually give, that is different from what society and culture today tells us we should be thinking about or doing. So, um, going against the grain is something that I believe may have a greater impact when it comes to making a difference in the world. So I feel I am a product of generosity. When I moved to the US, I really, through education, was able to, have scholarships and go through college. And at some point, I just realized that it was because of the generosity of others that I was in a situation of perhaps privilege, and realizing that wasn't supposed to be the case because in Colombia. And so to be able to be in a different position thanks to the generosity of others had a big impact. But the other thing was my husband grew up in a very generous family where they just shared everything they have. So they shared their home, they share meals, they share just hospitality, not necessarily in the way of monetary giving, even though that was part of it, but really more in a different sense. And basically marrying into this family and seeing generosity being shared in a way that I hadn't experienced up until that point made me realize there's something here that is attractive but yet unknown. And so that's what a little bit of kind of the journey that I've gone through in these past few years.
Karen, thank you so much for sharing and just family and even thinking about school. That just prompted me to think about my own journey. And yeah, I was so blessed to be able to have a full ride scholarship for my undergrad. And someone thought education was important and invested in students like me that allowed for that to happen. And now I'm here today running this ministry because of the investment, the generous investment that someone put in this case, education. So thank you for that because it just reminded me. Sometimes we take things for granted, right? We don't even think about how others have been generous with us. Javier, what about you?
Yes, I would say that there are three levels in which I could mention that generosity can be, a need in the world. First, what is broken our heart? What is breaking our heart? When we see poverty, when we see the need in many communities in our Latino community, also when we see unemployment, children, uh, a lot of needs in the families in the communities in Latin America and the United States as well. So we find out that the generosity can be a channel to bless and to serve and to solve and maybe to contribute to solve with some specific solutions with different, when we talk about generosity, it could be about money or other resources like talent, experience, and connections, as you said, scholarships. So how can we um, be part of the solution uh, to solve any problems that we see in our community all over the world? This is the first thing. So the second is that, as Karen was mentioning, all of us we have been subject of generosity from someone else in the past, from our childhood, or maybe when we were teenagers, or our parents experienced generosity. Maybe we didn't realize that most of the things that we have sometimes were because someone was helping our parents somehow, and they blessed them, so we were blessed by as a consequence of their generosity. So I saw that in my family as well. My mother used to be so generous. She's still so generous with everyone that was around our, our house, hospitality as well, uh, providing food or clothes for people in need. So this is in our DNA, I think, for Latinos as well. So how can we share everything that we have received already is something that is calling me to do what I'm doing now, is to promote generosity as a cultural shift in our families, in our communities, in our countries as well.
So good, solution, and that we have the family, and then how we have that ingrained in this in our own family upbringing. And as you're talking, Javier, I'm thinking of my mom. She was here for a couple weeks, and she's 78, and she's done quite a journey of services as a pastor's wife, and she established a couple schools. And I grew up always having people in my house because she was always generous with her space. People were always staying. Well, I got kicked out a lot in my room, in my bedroom, right? I have like missionaries or different people stay for extended period of some time sometimes, but there was always like food on the table for somebody on a Sunday afternoon, and there was like a lot of people all the time in my house. So she was very generous with just her hospitality. Um, but also now, she was just sharing with me how in her second or third repivoting of her life calling, one of the projects that she has is she collects all this like secondhand clothing or, different things, and then sends all these boxes to either Cuba or the Dominican Republic with all these like missionaries or people. And she always has like, she's like, I know people go to my room and they see all these boxes, but I have them in a nice little organized stack. And, then I send them. And I mean, and she's 78 and she's still like doing stuff for the kingdom. So I do think now in retrospect, as you're sharing, our family, absolutely, that rubs off when we are generous, our kids are seeing, and we might not even explicitly tell them be generous, but they're seeing how we live. And then that somehow carries through. So thank you for bringing that to bear. And that brings us to the next question, which is, let's talk about the different parts of the world. I know Javier, Karen, I mean, all of us have had a little bit of footprint, you especially Javier in Costa Rica, and you are always flying all over Latin America. How do you see generosity expressed differently across different cultures, especially between the US and Latin America?
Um,
Oh, yeah.
I can talk about Latin America mainly, the
Yeah.
countries I have been visiting and working with. It's part of the culture, I think. If normally Latinos are used to be very generous with those in need. Normally, when we are subject in Latin America of many natural disasters, so the disaster response is quite quick when there is a hurricane or an earthquake. Actually, we have seen this in the Caribbean and Central America and South America as well, with floods and so on. So it's part of our DNA to share with those in need when there is an emergency. The difference is, what if we may be generous as a lifestyle? Not only when there is a need, which is something that we see in Latin America, but also as a lifestyle to be proactive, not expecting someone to call us to do something, but to see proactively, mapping the need in our community, in our neighborhood, in our the place we are working. There is always a need to be fulfilled. So that we have something to put in the table, uh, that maybe can contribute to this. So it's a collective generosity that makes the impact. It doesn't mean that we individually cannot make an impact, but when we do it together, the impact is bigger, because maybe I can
Mm-hmm.
support with
Mm-hmm.
clothes, another one can support with
Absolutely.
healthcare or water supply or housing, but collectively we can impact. What I have seen, for example, we have an experience in India that is called Handful of Rice, which is a community that in India called miso community, that they separate a handful of rice every time they prepare, something to eat. They collect all this rice, they sell it, and they share with those in need, and they have been able since 1910 to raise about $25 million. With that money, they have been able to build schools, hospitals, training centers for women, and so on. But what is interesting, I saw in Colombia there is an initiative now called Handful of Coffee. The Handful of Coffee initiative is looking for people in the rural areas to separate handful of coffee and creating projects. So it's amazing what they are doing in Colombia, helping areas that maybe there is no healthcare, or maybe there is a need to startups, in agriculture or something like that. So we see a small, initiatives. For example, in Nicaragua, recently this weekend, that they have an initiative called 1 million Actions of Generosity in the continent. So in Nicaragua
Mm,
specifically, they organize a weekend serving in hospitals, children, vulnerable children, elderly centers. So it's amazing to see even countries that maybe they do not have as much resources as others, they are doing something. Yeah, so to see that in Colombia, or to see that in Nicaragua, or even in Cuba, so we can say that generosity is not a matter of a quantity. It's a result of a heart that is loving, each other, and with that heart full of love is expressed in actions of generosity to bless others. So in Latin America, there are many actions. Recently, also another initiative in Bolivia to send missionaries, young missionaries, to go to other countries to to share the gospel. So uh, it's something that we can have a scalable growth, because it's going to be a contagious. When someone
mhm.
see another one doing something, this is something that we want to replicate. So this is the multiplication effect that we want to have. When you do something, someone is watching you, and someone is learning how to do it. So this is what we are seeing in Latin America.
I love that. I love that. I love how it's a heart issue and it's not a matter of quantity, but in you're seeing it across the board, and the examples that you're giving are so powerful. And just how creativity is unleashed once the generous bug is in your heart and you start noticing the needs around you. It's not, you become really resourceful and creative in unleashing that, and not just you, but activating a community around you to then this common cause. Thank you for those examples. I love it. Karen, you want to add to that?
Yeah, as I was listening to Javier, there's such joy behind coming together in community. Like we have, right? Like we've been doing this for a while, like us coming together and just trying to figure out what does it look like for us to spread this message of generosity in the Americas. But at the end, it's because there's a community behind you. There are friendships, there are connections being formed that if I had known, I would meet such incredible human beings. Uh, if I had started my journey of generosity, if you will, earlier, I mean, I just feel like I missed out. But yet, there's this excitement now for what we can be doing together, how we can be changing the world, because I cannot change the world all on my own. But if a group of us come together and we all say, I have this to give, back to Javier's example of this wonderful example of people in India and Colombia and other places just taking what they have. And I think everyone has something to give. I know with that handful of the handful of rice, they say if we have something to eat every day, then we have something to give every day. And so it is just saying, this is what I have. It may not look like much, but it's not about, to your point, Alicia, about quantity, but it is about bringing what you have to offer. And because everyone else is bringing what they have to offer together, then they can create some meaningful, impactful change in a certain area or a certain location, community, cause, for a certain cause. So I just want to convey the message that being generous, it is such an exciting adventure because it's not done alone. It's done in community. It starts with our heart, but it really ends being manifested through others, with others, for others.
I love that. Karen, can you also add to maybe some of the misconceptions that people have about generosity and Latinos and as well, Javier? Because I think we're all everybody that's in this call today is Hispanic and we're all generous and we're all in this space. But what are some of the misconceptions that you have seen along the way?
Yeah, I will. I'll just say specifically because I have seen.
Maybe we can say
We'll go ahead and start with you, Karen, and then Javier, you can jump in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say because I've seen this over and over, especially with folks that come from Latin America, they move to the United States. There is this shift that happens, and I see it over and over again, and almost kind of saddens me a little bit. Where if we grew up in Latin America, we are very close to the need of what others. We see the need. We can see it when we're driving to work. We can see it when we're going from one town to another town. It's very palpable, right? The need of our communities or our countries in many spaces in Latin America. When people move to the US, so they immigrate to the US, it's almost like they almost forget that that was a reality, and they get consumed by society and consumerism and materialism here in the States. And it's so unfortunate because what happens is that then I see people getting into debt. And so I'm a financial advisor, and so I see this very often with people from Latin America. Maybe it is a little bit harder to get things, to obtain things. So then they come to the US and it is easier to obtain and to accumulate. And then they do that and then they forget their roots of generosity, because even in Latin America, because we know there's a need, we're very giving. And here it's almost like we forget and our heart maybe gets hardened a little bit around this. So I just see it very often, and it makes me a little sad because I know that that's not who we are as Hispanics. In America, we want to give, and giving means even opening our home and having people over for a meal and saying
Mm-hmm.
just knock on the door and come in. And in the U.S., you lose that many times because we get busy, we have to work, we have to do all these things, we have to keep up with our debt payments. And so then now we're working, and now we don't really even have the door of our home open for a meal with others, for others to come in and do a simple meal, but yet it's rich and rich in conversation, rich in hospitality, rich in connection. So I see that quite often within our Hispanic community, specifically those who move to the United States from Latin America.
Javier.
yes. I was about to say as well. Is what Karen is saying is the reality that normally we tend to forget where we come from. I mean, our history, and we need to understand. It's something that I realize also that everything we receive is not to be accumulated. It's such a selfish world in which we live that marketing is asking you to be the best, live for yourself, be independent, and so on. And when we realize we are in that, like I don't know if we can say a funnel in which we only see our future, our success, our accumulation, and we forget those surrounding us that are in need. We are running,
Yeah.
running to be rich, maybe, or to get a better house, or to get a better car, or whatever, better, which is okay, which is fine. We need to have a ceiling. I mean, what is the limit? How much is enough so we can live with this and we can share the rest? So this is the challenge we have, not to be aligned with the culture, but also to be aligned with God's principles.
I love what you both are talking about. It's very interesting. It's like this acculturation experience where we come to United States and we want to aspire for the American dream. Nothing wrong with that, right? Work hard, as Latinos, we have a very strong work ethic, um, as many do, and we're just aspiring for having the house, the dog. Uh, I have seen it in the clinical work that finances end up being one of the top reasons that couples really struggle with financial management. Sometimes they get, um, they live beyond their means, and then it's hard to keep with the Joneses, right? The neighbors, and so I see that, and I'm glad you're both talking about it. Um, it's like this climbing to aspire towards that. Um, so how do you put that, like, how do you navigate that to want those things, to aspire to be stable? I mean, do we have something to prove? Are we like, because sometimes I feel like with individuals, it's like, oh no, I have to prove that I can do it, that I can arrive. So there's some element of that. But on the other side, I'm just wondering, um, how do you hold this truth while also being okay to release? Karen, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to knowing who we are, right? I feel like we're all searching for a sense of identity. And so, who are we? In our case, if we're believers of the gospel of Jesus Christ, then we know that our identity lies in Him, in being children of God. And so, then there's nothing to prove, there's no need to perform, there's no need to accumulate to show others that I'm making it. But that is a reality that we have to come to terms with and we have to accept. And if that's the case, it's just simply confessing and saying, maybe I am been kind of trying to keep up with the Joneses, but I can turn back, I can repent and try to find. There's you I mean you probably there's so many studies. I'm sure that Alicia, you could quote many of those, but there are so many studies that say you could have all the money in the world and it's not going to give you satisfaction, right? You can search for it, you can go after it, to Javier's point, like going and working so much until you have and you've achieved all these things, but then there's no meaning because maybe you've lost a sense of family, of friendship, of
Mm,
community. So I feel like there's something that you trade. So if we're aware of them when we are looking for things that are not necessarily around giving or generosity, nothing wrong with that, but there is a trade. And so to what point am I willing to trade? And also, is any of that coming from a place of, maybe you can speak into this, Alicia, I would love to hear your thoughts of trauma, of maybe there are things that have happened in our lifetime that is actually causing us to search for those things that give us an identity or meaning, but in reality there's a deep void or a deep wound that needs to be healed in our hearts, and that is why we cannot be generous.
yeah, I mean, I do think that there are some wounds, some challenges that people have experienced. Something like, I didn't have shoes when I was growing up, so now I'm gonna just hoard all the shoes I can because I want to make up for that which I didn't have. And those are all experiences that we have had, yet they don't have to be a stronghold in our lives. So we can be aware of money and the big role it had when we were raised, whether it was because of scarcity, because truly there was poverty, and we don't want to experience the abusive or the neglect, or the lack of basic needs that we might have had because we didn't have it, and then we're afraid that at some point in the future we may not have it again. So we just want to keep holding on because we don't want, kind of like the depression era generation, people, right? Like, I always hear that they like held on to everything because they were afraid of missing out or not having it in the future when a financial difficult thing would happen because they experienced it and it was so hard. So those are all things that I think it's important to address and look at and consider, because if we're not aware of it, then it does influence how we choose and how we live. Yet once we look at it and we see it, then we have a choice. do we stay in it, or do we, when we see it again popping up, do we say to it, I see you, but you're not going to define me anymore. I'm going to make a different choice. And it's hard, and it's difficult because you've got all of that, that is a process of healing, but we can make a choice each time. And the choices can be simple. You mentioned it, I loved it. There's things such as time, advocacy, acts of compassion. um, it's not always, a check. But you start with those things, that I'm going to open myself up to the experiences of others. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to invite them. I'm going to be kind. It's as simple as, I'm going to make coffee for everybody at work, and at 3 o'clock, go around and share it. Like, it could start as small acts of kindness that then it's like a muscle, right? Don't you guys think that's like a muscle? Generosity is the muscle.
Absolutely. And I would love to share one, and I will
Please.
never forget the first thing that I just felt I needed to give that felt so uncomfortable. So I had bought this book. Uh, interestingly enough, it was about generosity. And I bought a book it was a thrift bookstore. So it was a used book. I had already highlighted and written on it as I was making my comments as I read through it. And I was meeting with a friend, and I was sharing with her how this book was impacting me so much. And I just felt this nudge of give the book to her. And I'm like, wait, no. First of all, like, it has my notes. I've already written. I'm not done with the book, but I just felt that nudge, give it to her. And so I give it to her. And will you believe that about a week later, she sends me this beautiful message saying how she's in her balcony reading the book and how much she loves that I also had highlighted and written. So she's reading through that. And then she's like, can I have your address? I would like to send you a book in return. And she sends me a brand new book. And that's when I realized, wow, here's this powerful exchange where this was this connection, this transaction that wasn't really monetary. It was a book with my notes, and I felt uncomfortable giving that to her. It was used, and what I got in return was a brand new book that she felt I needed to read. And it actually was a beautiful book that I still keep on my bookshelf, and as a reminder of that moment in time. And so we're also missing out on what we get in return. We're missing
Yeah.
out on the opportunities to receive things that we would never have received had we not taken a step to first give.
I love that. And haven't you noticed that, Javier and Karen, that when you make that choice of giving that which you hold to, that it's hard. Like you just explained it, a book, you're like attached to it. And there's so many things we get attached to. Like that first check that I wrote, my husband and I wrote of $1,000 for charity. It was like, and then when we did it, it brought us so much joy. But then after, we had literally so many amazing blessings. But you got to get to making that decision, of letting go. And then when you do, and it's just a process, whatever, if it's a book or if it's money, whatever it is that you're attached to. That's why it's hard, right? It's that first step because you're attached to it. But I love the example of just practical day to day, a book, a flower vase. I mean, it's sometimes we think in big terms, but it's our day to day, and imagine the impact it could have on so many people. Because the other thing that you mentioned is that it basically, it's contagious. So it speaks something powerful to someone, and then it's contagious. I see. I think Javier's having a little internet problem. Oh, there you are again. You're back up, Javier. Javier, do you have any other examples like that? Have you seen? Oh, it looks like he's. Do you
Uh,
hear us?
Alicia,
Yeah.
and can I just also share that we
Yeah.
can start being generous just with our words, with
Yeah.
the way we compliment others, with
Yeah.
connection. Sometimes I see this often when you have information that could be helpful for someone else. It could be life changing, and if you hold on to that and not give that to someone else, that you're robbing yourself and them of a wonderful blessing. of seeing how that might be a good thing. And I see that often sometimes where, and Elisa, you're such a you and I feel like we're kindred spirits in terms of connections. We love connecting. We love connecting others to other people. And I feel like that's a gift of in itself, of just saying, I'm going to be generous with everything I have, the contacts that I have, the people that I know, the information that I have, because it could help someone else. And that it's not monetary, but yet it can change someone else's life.
Karen, that's big. A lot of people hold on to their social connections for dear life and they will not share them at all. So even making that connection, we may think, oh no, that but it is big. And words, kindness, like I think of marriages, sometimes we withhold just being able to say thank you for taking out the garbage, thank you for making a meal, thank you for how you provide. Like we just get into like what we don't have and we get negative instead of, and it takes effort to be able to look and point at what we do have and point it out. So thank you for bringing that up. Javier, any other examples like that?
Mhm.
I think you're back on.
Um, I really like what you are mentioning here. I think it's a question of identity, as Karen was saying before. Where is my identity base? Is my identity based on what I have, what I do, who I am? This is important to know who I am, what I do, what I have, but in order to be shared with others, not to retain this, because there is more blessing,
Hmm.
more joy to give than receive. But our
Yeah.
society is inviting us to accumulate even the
Yeah.
connections, as you are saying. Oh, I don't want to share my connections because I have been building these connections for many years. But these contacts can bless others as well. It's not only money. So I think we need to ask ourselves, how am I base my identity? Uh,
Yeah.
how I value myself? Do I value myself because what I have? Because I mean, I remember when Jesus told the disciples, be happy, uh, rejoice because your names are written in the heaven already. Not because
Hmm.
what you do, what you get, what you reach, your success, not important because everything can disappear eventually. We may have money today and tomorrow we may not have anything. We may be famous today, but tomorrow no, you know. So,
Yeah.
but if we understand that the treasure, the real treasure is to give, not only to receive, is the happiness. We need to have an identity of generosity that is going to change, people surrounding us. It's something that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am struggling with this. When I Karen saying about the
Mhm.
book, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I have a lot of books that I could give away, because I love learning. Thanks for that, Karen. But
Yeah.
we accumulate many things that could be a blessing to others. That yeah,
It
could be a
is. I
blessing to other
started
people.
to not long ago be like, okay, if I read the book, I should just give it to someone that could be blessed because I'm always like, I'm gonna reread it, and I'm like, yeah, it's just never time. Unless it's like a classic, but yeah, I've done that a few times, but other than that, I think it's important to have that. I love what you're saying in terms of identity and how important that is. Let's talk a little bit about examples of generous initiatives that you guys have seen in terms of cross-cultural partnerships. I know Javier, you mentioned a little bit in Latin America, but just what are things that organizations, business leaders, like church leaders, what are things that people can do or have you seen be done to promote that generous mindset across groups, whether it's in business or your church or your community? Karen, do you have like any idea, like giving circles, things like that?
Yeah, I think it starts with connecting with people that you you want to do things with, you want to change the world with. And again, when I say change the world, it could be your world, the world around you, your community, your local community, your church, your workplace. So I feel it stems with that unity and that connection, that desire to get to know each other in a different way that is maybe
Yeah.
unlike anything else. And so then from there, you can start to look, is there something that as a group we feel breaks our heart? Is it that we see people around us maybe, or kids that don't have food, or people that need clothes, or what? And so I feel like there's usually this commonality to something around a group of people, that it's placed within that group and that community, and then from there you each give what you have, your time, talent, or treasure, to be able to try to solve that issue. That's what I feel if are
Yeah.
three important aspects of, so connection, community, and then obviously that generosity aspect of we give what we have, and then we just work together to see that problem being solved.
Yeah, I saw when you're saying that, I remember some people, I read an article that some people in Florida, they get together, or I don't know what state now. They get together like X month, X day of the month, and they go to like an IHOPs or something, and each comes with $100, and then they decide to either bless the waitress with, if it's 10 men, they get, and it was a guy thing. That's why I said men. And I thought, wow, like there's community. They get together, they talk, they each make a commitment, and then they decide to bless someone that, in an unexpected and in a specific way.
Can I just I love
Yeah.
that word commitment, the commitment piece where you all commit. And the other part is like there's no judgment, right? If maybe we just all commit to coming together, bringing what we have, and then to deploying whatever we think it should, where it should go. But bringing that commitment from everyone to saying, I want to be part of this, and I'm just gonna give what I have, and I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful and very specific word that we should consider as part of generosity and being generous in a community, is a commitment from everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Javier?
For me, generosity is the result of a heart that is transformed. I
Yeah.
mean, generosity must be an expression of our hearts, you know. So, uh, and there are two ways I have seen generosity working. One is providing a solution for a need, and the second one is enabling that community to support themselves and to have a sustainable, growth. So by providing, which is really normal, there is need of clothes or water or food. We're providing is okay, but when you enable someone to create their own business, to develop their skills, learning how to use their abilities, or learning something, is amazing, because you are providing as well, but you are providing capacity development, so they can build the capacity, so they can become self-sustainable financially, and then they can bless others as well. So I have seen this in two ways. In my church, for example, we have a shelter for 25 little girls, teenagers, that the government gave us, and the whole community in the church, we sell clothes or everything to provide, to support them on monthly basis. But at the same time, we are in a project to develop capacity, technology capacity, robotics, for example. So when they, are out of the shelter, when they are 18, they may have some skills that they can use to get a job. So we need to have this vision. To provide is fine, but to enable is better, because you are helping them to develop their capacities, so they can bless others, and they can be self-sustainable in the future as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're gonna wrap up a little bit in a few minutes, but one parting question, and then I'm just gonna show a little video 30 seconds. But the parting question is, if you imagine a future of generosity within the Latin America, all of the Americas, what do you hope to see? And what,
I
yeah,
Yeah, I would love to see what Javier just shared, right? That agents of change where they're building capacity for others to create sustainable, replicable
yeah,
impact around the Americas. That would be, but all of us coming together and saying, I have something to do, I have something to give. I want to be part of this movement, and then seeing it ripple across not just the Americas, but truly around the world.
yeah, yeah. So my
I will.
husband and I, well,
I
oh,
would
go
love.
ahead, Javier.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
because the delay of the time. Sorry.
Yeah,
The what I would love to see is a healed society
yeah,
in Latin America. What I mean by a healed society is a society that care for each other instead of fighting each other, instead of stealing, giving, instead of harming, caring, instead of taking lives of people, giving life of people. So instead of corrupting, being ethical. So
yeah.
this is the type of society I pray that we doing good we can change our society.
I love that. It's a beautiful vision, and especially when we see what's happening. Well, one of the things that started us on this journey of meeting once a month with you and some others that are not with us live, but some leaders in this space, is these getaways and these retreats. And Karen and I started in Colombia with a family, with this vision of being able to bring our families together to see our countries of origin, explore, also could connect with other ministries. Karen, if you can go back to that first Colombia trip and break that down. And then I'll share a clip of then how I took that and went to my own country, the Dominican Republic. And then just we'll wrap up.
Yeah, the dream of going to our countries of origin, taking people there. We did a journey of generosity, so generosity path, generous giving, also, great organizations that help put this together. And we took families, we had fun, we connected, we bonded as a group, and then we got to serve at a nonprofit together. And that just the experience was not only so impactful for those that we got to serve, but also for us, transforming our hearts, bringing us together, and now just having beautiful memories as friends, as families, where our hope is now that we get to continue doing that in other places. I know, Alicia, you're already planning for that in 2026. So to be able to continue and seeing more of those trips coming up and for others to join us is it's very exciting.
And you and your family have been able to stay in touch with Educación Fundación Educo because you just went and visit them again. So that was cool.
Yeah,
The non-for-profit we visited.
and the beautiful thing, Alicia, is that the things that have occurred from that trip and others just hearing about it and other connections coming from different places that we had not expected, but ultimately it's because we can see that there is, God cares about these kids that are being served in that nonprofit, and He is bringing us into a new space with new people and building a bigger community now that it transcends frontiers. So how exciting would it be for us to just continue creating a network of people all over the world that are doing things like this, that care about giving, care about doing different things in a different way than society tells us to
Yeah.
do, and then making an impact.
So this spring, we took some families to the Dominican Republic with this vacation with a purpose, right? We all have already, and I'm going to just show a 30-second clip real quickly to give people a sense of how that was. So it was just a cute little video, but it was fun. We had excursion for the family, as you saw, but we were able to also do some work at a school, paint a church that actually served the Haitian community in the Dominican Republic, and we were able to paint the schools. That they basically taught Spanish. Um, and then it went further because I got a call from the pastor of that church school that said, "Hey, did you guys leave money in the butacas, like the student tables?" And so someone went and bought a bunch of when we were there and they saw the need, they bought a bunch of school supplies and they also left money for the teachers to buy what they needed for the teachers. So it was really beautiful experience to have these vacations with purpose. I know we want to plan some more next year, but I share that as an example that we all can do something. In our case, we all wanted to go on vacations. We all wanted our children to experience and be connected with our Latin American roots and have that, the opportunity to actually serve and see the need and not just, like they come here in the United States and they have a lot and they're not necessarily exposed to the life that we all experienced in many communities. And so we want them to see where they were coming from and then also have a practical opportunity to, roll up their sleeves and be involved. And so these little vacations with a purpose that we're doing are just a way for us to continue that generous space. But you that are listening can do that and so much more, right? Like we shared today, with your words, with your kindness, with your home, with the service, hospitality, with your contacts, with your book that you want to not let go of. And in some cases, that does mean financial contribution as well. So your time, your talent, and your treasures. So to wrap us up, since we talked about books, one book that you can recommend, Javier and Karen, around the generous space, or even a website that you would recommend for those listening that want to learn more about generosity. Karen, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I see it right here. It's over here. It's The Treasure Principle by Randy Alcorn is the book that will start perhaps to open your eyes to what it looks like to see money in a different way, in the way that God intended it to be. And that was the first book that I read that started me on this incredible journey towards generosity.
Thank you, Karen. That's a good one.
Here, this one,
What's
Go
it called?
Giver Leader.
Oh, The Go
This
Giver
book.
Leader. Looks good. I'm going to write it down.
I don't
Thank
have
you.
that one, Javier. I'm gonna have to buy it on my on the thrift bookstore online that I get my books from.
Oh, maybe you can share that uh, thrift store
The
link and I
Go
can
Giver
post it in the
Leader.
comments. All right. Thank you, Javier. Well, thank you both. It's been
Yes.
delightful conversation, and I hope that those that are joining us now or you'll watch it later that you have found this fruitful. Share it with your friends and just think about one takeaway. What is the way that you can be generous today with your words, with your actions, or with your financial resources? Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Alicia. Thanks, Javier. So good to be with you guys.
Bye bye. Blessing to be with you. Thank you.